Hello and welcome to the third installment of the Speedrun Greatest Build series. In this episode we'll be tackling the coveted Obsidian Mauler. However, we are going to step it up a notch by adding a trade restriction to the mix. This will in turn add a guide element to the video for those who are starting fresh or have no wealth to begin with. This episode has to be without a doubt my most prestigious yet, so if you do enjoy the video, please make sure to drop a like and a subscription to the channel. Now, without further ado, let's get right underway. Alright, seeing I don't have any money to begin with, I'll grab a knife that spawns in the Lumbridge Castle to slash the web in the wilderness in order to run a few inventories of white berries. I'll also take the absolute safest routes possible, as I can't afford to waste any time diving. That's a few inventories done, giving us a little money to kickstart a very obscure and overpowered money making method. Using the money gained from white berries, we were able to achieve 17 crafting and finish off 18 through the sheep shearer quest. What we'll be making are toy dolls, which managed to sell for nearly triple the amount of the supplies needed to create them. However, seeing we don't have the construction level to build the most efficient house, we'll use World 30's houses in Remington and bank with the rings of dueling. Each run you can make up to 14 toy dolls, which equates to about 14k, and finish off with more than double, leaving with 32.6k per inventory, each taking about 34 to 40 seconds. Seeing that we're barely making ends meet at this point, we basically go through inventory until we gather enough supplies to thoroughly start making proper coin. As you can see here, I've already made a ridiculous amount of money in the first hour or so of the build, which is achieved by playing for the essentials and logging off, letting the dolls sell off well offline. What I soon figured out was that I could place a purchase offer into the GE with the same item but wound. These would slowly buy for 1 to 20 GP, however I placed the price to max out at 1k, as I would still make a profit as opposed to making the dolls in absolute zero time. And that is the start of RFD out of the way. Here we'll crack on with some early magic levels to help us during quest completion and to unlock future Nightmare Zone bosses. Here's the first of 5 Nightmare Zone bosses, doubled up with plenty of hit points to carry us through the rest of the build completely. The biggest key factor into finishing this build quickly is to complete goals in conjunction with one another. For example, here I'll pick up 3 Blue-Rite ore, 2 for 2 sets of swords, and the 3rd for the limbs to complete the Felidor diary. At this point I decided to head up to the GE to branch out into other items, as the dolls hadn't sold off for a few hours. I came to the conclusion that the recent clue scroll updates may fluctuate prices drastically, unfortunately to no avail. Nonetheless, back to the grind for the coveted mithril gloves. The absolute fastest method for me to tackle mithril gloves would be for me to focus on quests that'll level my stats faster than manually training. I'll also need most of these done in the future anyway. We've managed to pick up all the plate legs for below min, hopefully we can get rid of them for a decent profit. Here's a quick time-saving tip for Biohazard. When collecting the plague sample, grab 2 samples as you can't teleport with one without it breaking. If you have 2, you can activate the quest dialogue with the chemist, then teleport to Varrock and collect the 2nd sample from the bank. With thieving now out of the way, I've completed all the requirements for Recipe for Disaster, apart from 30 range, so let's get started. What we've done here is collected an extra rock cake for a fire cape attempt in the future. Here we are finally, with a few more dolls sold and a bit of extra cash. I also got to make sure to complete all the quests that give range experience prior to level 30, as post 30 range will be used solely for chompy kills and obtaining the fire cape. Here I am just picking up a cannon for 750k, in which I'll use for 23 to 30 range while slaying. Here is a juicy 600k profit. And finally, the completion of Mithril Gloves. Moving on to the build up towards Slayer, we'll start by working on Kudo completion for a few lamps from the museum and various other quests. Just a wee money making tip, look into items that aren't frequently traded but can be utilised in any particular way that gives the item a necessity. These items can be heavily manipulated as they're not frequently sold on the Grand Exchange, giving you practically full reign over the item's economy. Much like toy dolls, these are their counterpart, an extreme margin for a practically useless item, the toy cat. Requiring 85 crafting, I couldn't utilise this method on the speedrun account, but I thought I'd showcase this here anyway, as it gave me the idea and consequently the reason I've chosen this from scratch rather than trading everything over. Oh, and by the way, using this method you can make up to 4.6 mil an hour under the provisions that they do all sell. And here we are, just finishing up the rest of the kudos. And that's Spearhead complete. Alright, onto the toughest segment of the video yet, Slayer. However, before we get into it, we have a few quests left to complete. Level 30 and then onto level 39 Slayer, which is where we'll begin the lengthy grind of the video, and lucky for you, it's condensed into a minute or two. With one small favour complete, this now signifies the quest completion of the account, and the start of the final push towards 55 Slayer. Firstly, you're going to have to head to any Slayer Master and change the difficulty of your tasks. This means when receiving a task, the Master won't check your combat level, unlocking an array of different high level monsters. This is a method I call Trio Alt Slaying, a method that can be done at any combat level which grants the user up to 25k Slayer experience per hour, as opposed to your average 3 to 4k on an Obby Mauler. This is performed by the use of a Slayer partner and receiving a task from Duradel on both your main and pure. Furthermore, this can be altered into many different variations by using melee on the account you're training on and any projectile attack on the alts, as melee will always take priority over range and mage. The only downfall to a method such as this is the use of venom mechanics in correlation to crashes, and yes, there's a lot of them. However, me and the lads came up with the absolute kryptonite to tackle just that.
When confronted in a physical conflict, I'm going to go from 0 to 100 immediately. Just business, nothing personal.
And finally, after 9 to 10 hours later, we've achieved 55 Slayer. Moving on to the fifth and final segment of the video, the Berserker Ring Imbued. Now that all the bosses are unlocked, let's see how we can tackle the points at such speed in Nightmare Zone. In Nightmare Zone on a lower level account, you must unlock 5 melee only bosses, which is due to the NPC's buffed accuracy within a hard rumble. Each boss will grant an average of 1000 points and should take no longer than 20 seconds per kill. Furthermore, one piece of information that the wiki doesn't provide is that points may only be split between 2 accounts, which means they don't scale down too drastically when speeding up the process by using multiple ults. And one final tip for obbies that have 53 plus mage: unlock the boss Chronozone from the quest Family Crest. This grants runes within the Nightmare Zone, which gives absolutely 0 experience when splashing, meaning you can get imbues without any further experience. And finally, with the Berserker Ring imbued out of the way, we've created the absolute perfect base Obby Mauler, from scratch, no trading, with the heavy use of ults. Can't deny that. I'd like to thank my clan Limited CC for their efforts through and through, especially B for letting me use his skip ult, used to scale down drastically the number of tasks I can receive. And lastly, I'd like to say a huge thank you to Sam for creating some of the beats you've heard during the video. If you enjoyed his work and would like to check him out, I'll leave the link in the description. Big thank you to everyone who stuck around till the end. If you enjoyed the video, please do me a huge favour and drop me a like and a subscription. If you'd like to see a follow-up episode on the build, let me know in the comments below. If you're interested in sneak peeks, I'll also link my Twitter in the description. And with that said, enjoy the rest of your day, and take it easy guys.